All right. Hello, Council Member Ulrich. Thank you for joining us on Life Before the Virus.
Life before the virus, it's almost, it's so abstract now. We don't even remember what it's like.
I know it's so long ago, it feels. So, what were you working on? Do you remember?
I certainly do. I was working on the upcoming budget hearings that were coming up at the city. I was tending to a lot of constituent work. I was helping a number of small businesses in my community and a couple of veterans groups with different things and projects we were working on. We're talking about a community beautification project in Lindenwood with DOT. I mean, there were so many conference calls and meetings and hearings and things that were going on that kind of came to a screeching halt once the COVID crisis hit. So it's kind of surreal in that way, right?
Right. So, what does your day to day look like now?
You know, my day to day consists of mostly staying home, but I do venture to my office. I wear masks and gloves, and I Lysol wipe the car steering wheel and all the door handles. No one has been at my office since the city council closed down operation, so I'm the only one there. I'm not a risk to anybody. Nobody else is a risk to me. It's just easier for me to get a lot of work done in my office sometimes constituent-wise than for me to try to do everything off my iPhone or an iPad. So, you know, right now I'm getting inundated with people who are waiting for the PPP loan from the federal government, or people who are waiting to hear back from SBS, small businesses, for the business continuation loan program. I'm also hearing from tons of constituents who are frustrated that they can't file for unemployment. They have to stay on hold for long periods of time, or they can't get through to the website, or the website crashes, or they get kicked off the phone. So I'm hearing from individual residents who can't file for unemployment. I'm hearing from businesses who are waiting for loans from the city and the federal government. And also I'm hearing from a lot of nonprofit groups who are just concerned about their contracts moving forward. Are they going to be able to continue to serve seniors, veterans, young people in our communities? That's a legitimate concern, and one that we really haven't heard a lot about.
So, what do you tell these people with all these inquiries, which are valid concerns?
I think the best thing that I can do for them is to connect them to the right person or the right resource, or to get them an alternate way to get the information that they need. I said the other day to somebody, I feel like a switchboard operator, you know, like the old movies where you see the switchboard operators where they would pull the plug out of one and connect it to
Right.
another. A lot of times it's just connecting people and pointing them in the right direction. They see something on television, they hear something from the governor's press conference, or from the mayor's press conference, or the president's press conference, and they say, how do I get that? How do I apply for that? How does that help me exactly? And that's where the local elected officials, I think, can really play an important role in connecting people to the programs and the things that are there, that are being put there to help them. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think that economically speaking, we're going to be a lot worse off than people even think right now. So many of the small businesses in your borough, in Manhattan, and in mine, and Queens, and across the country, many of them will not be able to reopen. They simply didn't have the cash flow before the COVID crisis. They don't have the cash flow now, and they're not going to be in a position to wait a month or two to get some of the help that is available to them. It's not practical for them. It's just not going to be readily available to them in the time that they need it. And unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, they are going to they're going to go under, and I don't know if we're fully prepared for that.
But what do you see as the future? I mean, it seems kind of gloomy to think that we could lose a lot of these businesses. Like, what do you think as a leader and for the next person in your position?
Well, I think that there are tough decisions that have to be made this year, but this budget that's coming up, the upcoming fiscal year, is in some ways it may not be as bad as next year's budget. However, that being said, the most important thing that we can do right now is look out for each other. And I know it sounds kind of hokey, and that's some of the advice that we're hearing coming from our leaders on TV, but you can't put a price on a human life. And to the extent that we can help one another, for people that are self-quarantined, people who are sick, or for people who are just terrified of all the things that they're seeing and hearing. A simple text or a phone call or an email or a FaceTime, that will go a long way, especially for seniors and people with disabilities who may be trapped in their apartments and their houses. You know, not all of them have a strong support network. Not all of them have family members. Some of them who are up there in age may not even have a lot of family members, or their family may live very far away. They feel isolated. They feel depressed. And so to the extent that we can minimize the loss of human life first and foremost, but secondarily, to the extent that we can minimize the social impact that the quarantine and the COVID crisis is having on those populations, I think that that is really worthwhile. And I think that's something that we can all do. And I would encourage people, doesn't matter if you're a politician, you're a celebrity, you're a person, a social media star such as yourself, you know, regular, ordinary people can really make a difference by just checking in on their, not only their families, but their neighbors and people who they know may feel isolated or depressed during this very difficult time.
Now, the next step that is in this is really testing and finding out who has the virus and who has the antibodies. And there's a movement, Survivor Corps, which is pushing for COVID survivors to get out there and donate blood and plasma to different research institutions to study for a vaccine. What are your thoughts on the next step of this pandemic?
Well, we just posted that link yesterday on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram from the New York Blood Center, encouraging people who have recovered, successfully recovered from COVID. These are individuals who tested positive and who have fully recovered and now test negative for COVID-19, that they can donate their plasma and their blood so that that can be used as a treatment method for people who are not responding well to some of the other medication and some of the other forms of treatment that they're using. I think that is really going to be, sorry, I just got another call. I had to decline that. Yeah. That is going to be very helpful in making sure that people who are in desperate need of healing and recovery can get it. You know, this is such an aggressive disease, and I don't think that this is something that we were fully prepared for. And hopefully, whatever lessons that we learn, you know, we can learn from, and make sure that the next flu pandemic or the next public health crisis is not as severe as this one. To the extent that we can minimize that, we have to do everything that we can. And donating plasma and blood is one way that we can do it, but there are many other ways as well.
So take us back for a minute before the crisis really became bad. What was your position when you first started hearing about the virus?
I think that, like so many other Americans, I felt that this was something that was going to only affect older people or people with compromised immune systems or people in certain parts of the country. I knew that because we are an international city that it would eventually hit New York, but I never thought that it would be as pervasive and severe as it is. It's very concerning to me that hundreds of people, so many of whom I know personally, and I've posted condolences and made a lot of phone calls in the past couple of days that I never thought I would have to make. You know, these were healthy people. These were younger people. These were people that, to the extent that I know, did not have pre-existing health conditions or chronic health conditions, and they succumbed to the virus. It's very scary. It's very scary. And I just think that there are a lot of people who are taking this seriously, who are wearing masks and gloves, who are sheltering in place and self-quarantining and doing the right thing. But I see a lot of people out there who are not doing the right thing, who are not washing their hands frequently, who are not wearing gloves or masks, or people who are, you know, just not doing the things that they need to be doing. And they are doing a disservice, not only to themselves, but they're putting other people at risk as well.
Is the Boardwalk still open on Rockaway Beach, where we launched our dockless bike pilot?
The Boardwalk is still open, but the beaches were that is a budget negotiation, and we're gonna see how far that goes. I'm hoping the beaches can remain open and we can practice social distancing and we can have some degree of normalcy restored to folks in the Rockaways and people who love the Rockaways like yourself. But that is a decision that's going to be made by the council and the mayor in the upcoming budget negotiations.
So when will that take place now, looking at the summer and thinking about your beach community?
Those conversations are happening now. We are engaged with the Parks Department and the commissioner and my colleagues as well. This also impacts Coney Island and the Bronx and other parts of the city that have beaches and pools and outdoor recreation areas. The budget is going to be ugly. It's not going to be pretty. And I think people are going to have to make some really difficult decisions. But that is what I was elected to do. And, you know, it's not all about kissing babies and cutting ribbons. Sometimes it's about making very difficult decisions that are going to help some people and hurt others. That's the reality that we're in. That is the new reality. And that's something that we have to work on together.
Thank you so much for everything you're working on and for your leadership.
Thank you, and God bless you, and stay safe, you and your family.
Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.